Meet Mr. Orange. He finally found the house, pulled up a mortgage calculator, and hit enter. The monthly payment that pops out is exactly $850 higher than the exact same house would have cost him 5 years ago. Same zip code, same paycheck, nothing changed. Yet an invisible machine quietly reached into his future and added a second car payment to his life. When that monthly payment spikes, it is common to look toward the Federal Reserve. We picture a board of serious people in a wood-paneled room in Washington, turning a giant dial labeled Your Monthly Payment, assuming that if they would just turn it back down, housing would get cheaper. The Federal Reserve dictates the overnight rate, the interest banks charge one another for short-term loans. This specific lever is mechanically distinct from the 30-year commitments tied to a consumer mortgage. The number that actually dictates a mortgage lives in the bond market. This market acts as the quiet, massive foundation underneath every single car loan, credit card, and home loan in the country. To see why Mr. Orange is suddenly paying hundreds more for the same property, we have to look past the central bank's short-term targets and into the three-part machine that actually calculates a mortgage. The base layer of that equation is a bond. A bond is simply an IOU. When the government needs money, it borrows it by selling a piece of paper that says, "Give me your cash today and I will pay you back later, plus a little extra, for your trouble." That extra percentage is the yield. Mr. Orange is getting a 30-year mortgage, but people move, they refinance it, or they pay it off early. On average, a typical mortgage is gone in about a decade. So even though it is technically a 30-year commitment, it behaves like a 10-year loan. Because of that, lenders price mortgages directly against the 10-year Treasury yield. The government does not set that yield. The market of lenders does, treating the yield exactly like a massive credit score. If they feel nervous about being repaid on time by a stable government, they demand a higher yield to offset their risk. Right now, the United States government owes roughly $40 trillion. The interest bill alone to maintain that debt has crossed $1 trillion a year. The government now spends more annually paying interest to lenders than it spends on its entire national defense. Lenders see that arithmetic, and they get nervous. As international lenders get anxious about America's borrowing habits, they hike that baseline yield to protect themselves. Every tick upward on the government's borrowing cost directly raises the foundational floor of Mr. Orange's monthly housing payment. That foundation is only the first part of the machine. The second variable is the toll. When Mr. Orange signs his paperwork, his bank does not hold his loan. They instantly bundle it with thousands of other mortgages into a mortgage-backed security. That basket of loans is sold off to investors who demand their own extra slice of yield on top of the government base. This chart tracks the gap between the 10-year Treasury and a 30-year mortgage. The toll used to be a stable markup of 1.75%. Recently, that spread blew out toward 3%. When market volatility increases and the bond fear gauge spikes, investors charge a premium up front. They fear prepayment risk. If rates drop, Mr. Orange can refinance and hand the investor their money back, right when there is nothing good to reinvest it in. This instability was exacerbated when the Federal Reserve, previously the market's largest and most reliable buyer, stepped out of the mortgage buying business entirely. Their exit created a vacuum. Without that massive, steady flow of cash, the remaining nervous traders are free to demand much higher markups. This means that even if the government bond rate stays flat, Mr. Orange's mortgage gets more expensive. Invisible investors are charging him for their own jitters and the absence of a reliable buyer to anchor the market. While Mr. Orange struggles to get into a house, millions of current homeowners are finding it impossible to leave. Take a homeowner who refinanced to a 2.9% rate back in 2021. She just got an incredible job offer across town, but that cheap mortgage has transformed into a set of financial golden handcuffs. Moving closer to the new office would require trading her 2.9% rate for today's market rate of roughly 6.5%. On a similar house, that math doubles her monthly payment for the exact same lifestyle. She does the rational thing. She turns down the job and stays put. This stacked bar chart reveals the scale of the freeze. More than half of all American homeowners with a mortgage are sitting on a rate at or below 4%. Nearly 70% are below 5%. Tens of millions of people would have to double their housing costs just to relocate. This freezes the natural churn of the market. The supply of houses for sale has evaporated because current owners cannot afford to move. This is the ultimate squeeze on Mr. Orange. His borrowing costs are high because of the bond market, and the actual inventory is non-existent because the current occupants are trapped. The stress in today's bond market is structurally different from the 2008 collapse. In 2008, the rot was in the loans themselves, toxic subprime mortgages. Today, the underlying loans are generally solid and verified. The pressure is coming from the volatility of government debt itself, rather than a wave of consumer defaults. To navigate this environment, many follow a specific industry logic. Date the rate, marry the house. If you can comfortably afford the monthly payment today, waiting for rates to drop can be a gamble. Lower rates often bring a wave of sidelined buyers back to the market, triggering bidding wars that drive house prices up, erasing any interest savings. You can eventually renegotiate a rate, but you are locked into your purchase price forever. Know your refinance trigger before you sign. Once rates drop enough to shave 3/4 of a point or a full point off your loan, act ruthlessly. Trying to outguess the market to find the absolute bottom of the cycle is how people miss the window entirely.
Finally, recognize what a fixed-rate mortgage actually provides. It is insurance. You pay a slightly higher initial rate to guarantee that no matter how much volatility hits the global bond market, your monthly housing cost never moves a single dollar. If you are running the numbers at 2 in the morning and feeling like homeownership is slipping away despite doing everything right, understand that you did not fail. An invisible global machine repriced the largest purchase of your life, and it is entirely rational to sit out until the math makes sense again.